Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and today I'm seasonally confused, but we're comfy. It's spring break. I'm gonna do what I want. And in today's video, we are going to be taking a look at all of the series that I'm in the middle of, and we are going to determine which series, in my opinion, are worth continuing. In order to do this, I've got my handy dandy 2025 reading journal, and I do have a series tracker in here that I think is updated at the moment. If not, we'll find out very soon. But here's my series tracker. We've got a Dutch door situation so I can keep adding series, but I'm just gonna go through this. There might be some romance series that didn't make it on here because like Abby Jimenez's Part of Your World, like interconnected series, I don't really think of it as a series. So that's not in here, but then there's like romantic suspense series that are in here. For some of those, there might not be a rhyme or reason, but for like fantasy, romantasy, that kind of thing, they're definitely in here. So let's just get started, and I'm gonna go in order. It's the A Curious Beginning Veronica Speedwell series by Deanna Raybourn. I just finished the first book in this series for a book club. One of my book clubs does themed books instead of like we all pick the same book. And so this was picked for the historical mystery category. And so I read the first Veronica Speedwell book. And this is about what feels like turn of the century England, and we're following a woman named Veronica Speedwell. She is a like butterfly scientist, and she's teamed up with a taxidermist, and they just run around solving mysteries together. I didn't like the character of Veronica Speedwell, and so that kind of turned me off to the series. So this one is very easy, but I will not be continuing the Veronica Speedwell series. The next series is the War of Lost Hearts trilogy by Carissa Broadbent. I absolutely loved the first book. For some reason, I have the second book. It's sitting right behind me, but I haven't picked it up yet. But I really liked that we're following Tasana, who is a slave, and she receives freedom, but instead of just like going off and gallivanting about her life, she really wants to free the other slaves. So she goes to a place to learn how to hone her magic, and she is matched up with a mentor named Max. And there's a lot of really dark, creepy magic. There's voice in your head trope. And I just really liked the journey of Tasana as well as the romance between her and Max. So this is a series I'm going to continue. I just haven't been like inclined to pick up the second book yet, and I don't know why, because I loved that first book so much, but I will be continuing this one. Let's talk Elsie Silver. So I'm currently like right smack dab in the middle of the Chestnut Spring series. I've read Flawless, Heartless, and Powerless, which is the first three, which means I have 2 more books to read. I really enjoy Elsie Silver. I'm not gonna lie, some of her spice does give me a little bit of the ick, but I really like the character dynamics and the romances. So even if I have to skip over some of the spice, I really enjoy these books, and I definitely plan on continuing the Chestnut Spring series. Continuing on with Elsie Silver, we have the Rose Hill series. This so far is Wild Love, Wild Eyes, and then Wild Side was just released. I just read Wild Eyes last week. It's been a 5-star series from beginning to end for me. I love this even more than I loved Chestnut Springs. We're following a small town, and it's not necessarily all set on a ranch, although some of the characters in this series do participate in ranch activities, but we're mostly just following small town people. It's a lot of single parent tropes, which I didn't know that I loved, but I do. And I'm very, very, very excited to pick up Wild Side very soon because, like I said, every book in this series has been a 5-star, so I'm definitely going to be continuing on in this series. Let's talk Rebecca Ross now. We have the Elements of Cadence series, which the first book is A River Enchanted, and the second book is A Fire Endless. I loved the first book in this series, which is set in a fantasy world that feels very Scottish clan inspired. And we're following a bard named Jack who comes home to solve a mystery of these girls who are disappearing on the island, and he, as a bard, is the only one that can commune with the spirits of the land. And then we're also following another couple that I just absolutely fell in love with, Torin and Sidra, and basically how all of their lives intersect, and the politics and the love lives and the other like familial relationships between these people, as well as just like the coolest setting ever. So A River Enchanted was actually my favorite book of 2024, so there's not a question of if I'm going to be continuing. I can't wait to get to A Fire Endless, but it's one of those books that like I'm so excited about it that I keep putting off because I'm afraid that I'm going to be let down, which doesn't make sense because I've literally devoured everything Rebecca Ross has ever written. It's literally right behind me. Like, I'm so excited to read it. I just, for some reason, like I can't pick it up because then it will be over, you know? Another cowboy romance series is the Rebel Blue Ranch series by Lila Sage. I've read the first book in this series called Done and Dusted. It feels very Chestnut Springs. We're following a family that owns a ranch and the love lives of all of the children and the adjacent people in their lives. So it's basically a repeat of what I said about Chestnut Springs, but this does feel different in its own right. The author chooses to focus on some different things like mental health and neurodivergence in a lot of her characters, which I do appreciate. I do think that after reading the first book, some of the same spice icks I have with Chestnut Springs, I have with Rebel Blue Ranch. I also didn't mention this. I don't have spice icks with the Rose Hill series. It's just Chestnut Springs. I do plan on continuing this series. The covers are adorable. The stories are short and sweet. And I gave Done and Dusted, I think, a 3.5, but I've heard that the series gets even better from there. So I'm excited to keep reading, and this is just a fun series. Robert Jackson Bennett has a series called Shadow of the Leviathan, which starts with The Tainted Cup, and then another book comes out very soon called A Drop of Corruption. I loved the first book in this series, The Tainted Cup. It was so different than other fantasy that I've read. The whole world is very organic matter. You've got these giant beasts called Leviathans that pose like end of the world type situations upon the people. The way that the world is set up is really cool. It's like the people in the inner ring of the city are protected, and the more you move towards the outer ring, the less protected you are because of the Leviathans. But on top of just a really cool world and really cool monsters, there's a really cool mystery and group of characters that are setting the mysteries. So I want you to think about Sherlock Holmes and Watson thrown into a fantasy world that is just completely different than anything you've ever read about before. Robert Jackson Bennett's writing was spectacular. The characters in this book were kooky, and I can't wait to read the second book. So this is another series that I will be continuing. We have a guest star. I will be continuing all of the books about Zelda. She's the floofiest. And you know, floofy girls, they make the best books. All right, this one might be controversial. We have the Kindred Curse Saga, which is Spark of the Everflame, Glow of the Everflame, Burn of the Everflame, and we are still waiting on, no, Heat of the Everflame, and we're still waiting on Burn of the Everflame. This is a fantasy romance about a girl named Diem who is like just an ordinary girl. She's not supposed to have magic, and the people with magic like run society and all that kind of thing. But there's secrets that Diem has that make her special, and she falls in love with somebody with magic, and she doesn't have magic, and there's a whole rebellion and an uprising and all the stuff that you are so used to reading in fantasy romance. And I'm gonna say that after reading book 1, book 2, and getting to the 50% mark of book 3, I don't think I'm going to be finishing this series. I just don't think it's for me. I don't think the length of book 3 is worth the effort that I've put into the series so far. And I know a lot of people absolutely love this series, and I'm so happy for you. I can't wait to see book 4 finally get in your hands, but I think it's time for me to put this down and donate my indie copies to my used bookstore. I think they'll appreciate them. A series that I have started this year that I am just so incredibly happy about is the Farseer trilogy, which is a small part of a larger series called The Realm of the Elderlings, and this is by Robin Hobb. In this first trilogy, we are following Fitz, who is the bastard son of the king in waiting, and that is putting the story very, very simply. This is a slow story where we're really diving into character dynamics and relationships and politics, and I have devoured every second of it. So I've read the first book, which is Assassin's Apprentice, and the second book, which is Royal Assassin, and I have just started the third book, which is Assassin's Quest, and I can't wait to just kind of live my life in this Realm of the Elderlings series for the next like year and a half. There's 16 books overall. It has my whole entire heart. I feel like I have escaped to a new world when I'm reading those books. Her writing is so good. I love it so much. So you bet your bottom dollar I'm continuing in the Realm of the Elderlings series. The Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. I've read the first 4 books. The 5th book came out in December, and would you know that I have not felt an impulse to pick up book 5? This is one that I'm undecided on because I feel like in order to get the full punch of reading book 5, I need to reread books 1 through 4 because it's been a while and I don't know that I have it in me to read 4,500 pages to get ready for a 5th book. So you guys might be able to convince me. I love Brandon Sanderson. That's just a lot of work. That's just a lot of work. Staying on the Brandon Sanderson train though, Mistborn. So if you don't know about Mistborn, it is different series that are split up into different eras that kind of all encompass Mistborn. So I read the first series, which is The Final Empire, The Well of Ascension, and The Hero of Ages. Favorite fantasy trilogy of all time. I love it so much. Vin and Elend and everybody in that series, Kelsier, they have my whole heart. Sazed, oh my gosh. I'm feeling a reread of Era 1 coming on, and I don't really reread books. But I have not started Era 2, even though I have the first book. So this is one that I want to get to. I want to continue in the like giant picture of Mistborn. I just haven't yet. So Mistborn, we will be continuing. Another series that I started very recently is the Fair Folk series by Lyra Celine. This series came very highly recommended to me by a couple of friends. So I read the first book, which is A Feather So Black, and I don't think I'm going to continue on with the series. I'm glad I came to this realization at book 1 because book 2 did come out recently. It's just not for me, I don't think, and I can't really put my finger on why. The writing, absolutely stunning. Like some of the best writing I've ever read. The characters were compelling, but I didn't like the characters together. I didn't like the path that the characters were on, and I just don't feel like I have to know what happens next. A romantic suspense series that I have been reading is The Edens by Devney Perry, and these are just books that I pick up when I'm either feeling slumpy or I need a palate cleanser between big fantasies because they read so fast. So kind of like Chestnut Springs, kind of like Rebel Blue Ranch, we are following a family that is very interconnected, but the books in this series are Indigo Ridge, Juniper Hill, Garnet Flats, Jasper Vale, Crimson River, and Sable Peak, and I have read up to the 3rd one, which is Garnet Flats. So I'm 50% of the way through this series. Some of the books are better than others. I loved Indigo Ridge. I loved Juniper Hill. Garnet Flats was kind of a miss for me, but like I said, these are just very, very easy palette cleanser style books. They're really fun to pick up. Nothing life-changing, but they're really fun to pick up. And Devney Perry has a Romantasy coming out with Red Tower later this year, so I'm very excited about that. There are some books that I could include in this video that have sequels coming out this year or very soon, such as the sequel to The Will of the Many, the sequel to When the Moon Hatched, but because those books aren't in our hands yet, I don't want to go ahead and start talking about them as a series, and we'll get to those when they come out. But overall, I'm really happy with the amount of series that I'm in the middle of right now. I don't feel like it's too overwhelming. I feel like I have things to pick and choose between that fall into different genres, different categories. It always feels new and fresh when I pick up another book in a series. I am planning on doing a video on series I would like to start soon, so stay tuned for that one. And let me know if you have finished any of these series and what your favorite one that I talked about was, because I personally would love to know. Thank you guys, as always, for watching my videos and supporting my channel. If you would like to follow me on social media or check out my Patreon, all of those links are down below. I'd love to have you wherever you want to come chat with me. It would make my day. And I will see you guys in another video very soon. Bye, guys.